How about now?
Whoa, hey, there we go, Mike. We see your chin. You got to scoot a little bit back from the phone.
I got it. I got it. I got it. Oh, God.
There
Listen,
you go. Welcome.
anyone who's listening today, Jared has been so kind to take the heat off of me. And it's my problem technology wise. So thank you for covering for me for a while.
Oh, no, you're awesome. We're just glad to have you back. So I was telling everybody earlier, we had you on the show a couple of weeks ago. We had not the greatest of connections, probably because of me, Mr. Technologically inept. And we couldn't hear you very well. So today we've taken care of almost all of those. I'm still technologically inept, but you are super crisp clear. We can hear you really well, and we got you online with us. So we're ready to roll.
All righty. All righty. Hope things are going well for the folks out there. I hope I miss seeing Natalia, but I understand that she's making headway on some educational endeavors. So way to go. Way to go.
I know everybody misses seeing Natalia. Nobody comes to the show when she's not on. So, but she'll be back next week. So just remember, everyone, she's coming back. So we're excited. So Mike, we loved our conversation with you a couple of weeks ago. Just again, there may be some new people who are watching who didn't watch last time or who couldn't watch last time. Just give me an overview of what do you do? What do you do?
Okay. The simplest way to look at it is I write and I talk, and I've been doing it for about 31 years. I do seminars for a range of different types of corporations and national associations, that sort of thing. And then from a writing standpoint, I do books, articles, blog posts. Most of it is under the tag of The Perfect Workday. I have a company called The Perfect Workday Company. I did a book, The Perfect Workday book, and it's how you can get more out, in essence, how to get it all done and not go crazy. So I dabble in some other topics. Caregiving is one that I do a lot of work in, and this small business creation, that sort of thing. So it's a lot of fun, a lot of fun. Get to meet folks like you and Natalia.
Well, we get to meet folks like you. That's what we're most excited about. And we're pumped today because, what Mike didn't say is that for 30 years, he has been teaching time management, change management. This guy knows his stuff. So we're absolutely thrilled. And he said he's a writer. I got this in the mail just a couple of days after our last show. He sent me a copy of his books with 350 tips on time management, productivity management. If you want to take your life to the next level and actually get more done, then, definitely get this book. So
you are too kind. Thank you.
Tag him and he'll be able to get that to you. Mike, tell us what would you say is the best starting point for someone who's trying to maybe overhaul their time management? They're trying to be more productive. Like, where does it actually start?
And let me say something that maybe a lot of folks would be surprised at. What rewards do you want? If you do this overhauling and you can get things done the way you want them to get done, what are you going to get? What do you want out of it? I've always been someone who thought, what's out there at the very end waiting for me? And if I can find a reward that's worthwhile, we'll do it. As humans, you get the right reward in front of us and we will do absolutely anything. And all the great accomplishments have been based on someone had the reward, and it could be just seeing if an idea would work. They're all but you hardly ever hear anybody talking about this. And now, from a very practical standpoint, one of the questions I would ask anyone is, where does your time go on a daily basis? Most studies now say that the vast majority of folks in an 8-hour workday are really working about an hour to 90 minutes, and the rest of their time is spent checking Facebook or, talking to friends, going to lunch, that sort of thing. So where does your time go? If you can come up with an improvement on using your time, even a small improvement, it's kind of stunning as far as the impact it can have on you.
So let me walk it back a little bit, because we talked a little bit about the rewards last time, really being clear on what are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to accomplish? And I know that nobody here is watching this from their office, from work. And if you are, then immediately after our show, shut it down and get back to work.
Get back to work.
But in our last show, you talked about 137 things that people most often have on their to-do list. So what are the other rewards that maybe people are deceived by more often? And I think I probably know the answer, but what are the maybe false pursuits that people put up as a reward?
And if you'll allow me, let me back up just 1 second,
Yeah.
so we make sure everybody's on the same page. A few years ago, a couple of researchers from Princeton did a study and found out the average American has about 137 things on their mind that they believe that they want to try to accomplish. So you got to start kind of paring that list down. So that's where Jared got that 137 thing. But in terms of the false rewards, the first one everybody talks about is money. I'm going to do this for the money, and 17% of the population is truly motivated by money. 17% get up every day and think, what can I do to make my pile bigger? But for most other people, it's all kinds of other rewards. It could be an internal reward. You want to feel about yourself in a certain way, an external reward in that you want to live in a certain type of home, in a certain type of neighborhood, that sort of thing. It could be that you love learning. And I'm one of those guys. I've got to learn something new every day. This is a wonderful example. And just being able to learn how to use this sort of technology. So this was a big payoff for me today. So I would suggest to folks, though, that they try to be honest with themselves. I run into a lot. I'm 65, and I run into a lot of my peers who talk about retirement and what they're going to do in retirement. Well, you know what? These folks are going to be bored to tears in about 6 to 12 months. So if your reward moving through your career is to be able to retire, then I would say you need to kind of re-examine why you're doing what you're doing. I don't know if that's answering the question as you expected it. But
no, I think that's helpful, because I think, a lot of times we do end up, putting up a promotion or a status or some end in sight. In fact, I was talking with a client just earlier, and how often people are saying, well, when this happens, or when I get to this point, then I'll be happy. And sometimes those are some of those false rewards that we think are really important, and we think that there's something that we drive toward, but then when we get there, we're kind of like, oh wait, it's this over here. And I know just from my own personal experience, when I work with clients who are later on in life, it's not usually, hey, I wish I had spent more time in my business, or I wish I had made more money. It's usually associated with, I wish I was around for my family a little bit more. I wish I had really grown a relationship with my wife, or those types of things, versus the, I wish my empire was a little bit bigger, or my bank account was a little bit bigger. It's not always those things. So I love the idea of really resting on the right rewards and establishing those for yourself.
At the same time, though, Jared, you've made an excellent point. There's an old joke that says, no one ever has, I wish I'd spent more time at the office, on their tombstone. But there are some people who would put that on their tombstone, because being in the office, doing what they do, is how they really get jazzed. I mean, it's the thing that really makes it for them. And it's not to say that they end up really rich, or have a lot of these accomplishments that a lot of people believe are supposed to be the be all and end all. It's that they really enjoy, their sense of happiness comes from that process of coming up with ideas, making those ideas happen, working with other people, and that sort of thing. So I think sometimes we hammer people who really do enjoy that, being at the office and getting it done and working, and when in fact that for them is the thing that creates a sense of real joy. I'll give you a great example, and this is one of the reasons I always enjoy it when we have a chance to talk, because I end up learning, I always end up learning something about myself. And one of the things that I've come to understand is this. I mean, you and the viewers can look at me and realize that I ain't exactly a bathing suit model. And so, but I'll tell you this, I go to the gym 4 to 5 times a week. Now, I may not look like I do, but I can tell you this, for me, it's play. It is, I go into gym, I'm a member of 2 gyms. And the reason I'm a member of 2 is because some gyms have toys. That's my word for them, machines. Some gyms have toys that other ones don't. And so I go because it's like playing. I have friends who play golf 3 or 4 or 5 times a week. They just enjoy that activity. One of the things I would push some of your viewers to think about is, what activities are you involved in which you are all in which you get that feeling of, oh, this is really what I'm supposed to be doing. Back in the 80s, there was a guy with a name about this long. His name is Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. And he was,
right?
Flo. Yep. And at the time, he was a professor at the University of Chicago. And he said that when we get into a state of flow, it's literally like a light trance state. And that it's almost as if this is why we're here. This is what we're supposed to be doing. So one of the things that I would ask anyone who is kind of, to use your phrase, trying to kind of rehaul their time management system and what they're trying to accomplish is ask themselves, does that phrasing work for you? Rather than time management, why not look at it as life management or dream management? And if you do that, look for those things that get you into that state of flow. Now, it may not have anything to do with work, and it may not have anything to do with making money, but those are the moments in which we are truly happy. The cliche, Jimmy Buffett's song Cliches, cliches say what they mean and mean what they say. That cliche about the fact that it's the journey, it's not the arrival, that is true. That is absolutely true.
Sure.
So if you don't mind me doing a little bit of an interview, when you think about the journey that you've been on,
yes.
You and I've talked a little bit about your background. When are moments that you found that you were in that, you had that sense of flow, that you kind of all in, you knew, this is what I'm supposed to be doing? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are definitely those moments. For me, I think I can think about the different areas of my life and what that looks like in each. So I love to write. And when I have created an article that I've spent a lot of time and effort, and I'm just in the zone, pounding out the words, and I feel like it's flowing, I feel like it's making sense. This is all before I actually post it on the internet, and then there's like crickets and nobody responds. But I feel that sense of flow, and I feel like, wow, I can sit up and say, it's been 2 hours. It's been 3 hours. Just Tuesday of this week, I knocked one out in 4 hours. But it was 4 hours of me sitting down and really banging out an article and doing a lot of research. But it went by like that. And so, you know, that's in that. In my health, it's, you know, when I am in the middle of a long run or a really good workout routine where I am just, again, you lose track of time. And I think that's what, I'm not even going to say his name because I always butcher it. You know it much better. The author of Flow, he talks about, you know, how time can just fly by in those moments because you're just kind of in the zone. So yeah, that's definitely where I felt it.
Well, when Mahaley did the research, he talked everyone from professional basketball players to fighter pilots. Right. And they would talk about those moments in which it was just working. Michael Jordan talks about that a lot. About it doesn't seem like he's exerting energy. It's just he was doing what he was doing, and it works. Yeah. I know that your point about writing is well taken. That is exactly. I found out that was one of the things in life that gave me a sense of flow in college. I'd have never gotten out of college if I had not been able to write term papers, and I was definitely one of those. Let's wait till the last minute to write a term paper. But I found that the feeling I got of being all in and that total focus, there was something about that. Over the years of professionally writing, I've jumped out of airplanes, driven jet skis, just a lot of crazy stuff, and written about it. And as much fun as it was doing the stuff, I enjoyed writing about it more than I did doing the stuff. And that always amazed me. Yeah. So I would ask, if you don't mind, let me give our friends a little tip. Look into your life and ask yourself, when are you engaged in something in which you lose track of time? Your point a second ago is well taken. When you said you were writing and all of a sudden, boom, 2 hours is gone, boom, 4 hours is gone. I get it. I get exactly the same thing. Yeah. Our friends who are watching, what in life are you engaged in when you lose track of time? That is a sense of flow. And once you recognize that, you can start looking around at other areas of life and ask yourself, when do I get this feeling? And how can I put myself in a situation more often where I get that feeling?
And can I add into that also, that doesn't mean that it's any easier necessarily to start that task. It might still be something that we kind of think in our minds like, oh man, I want to write this article. I want to go, you know, move that wood pile in the backyard, whatever it is. And we might still not be excited about doing it, but we might, once we start doing it, we might be able to enter that state of flow. So I love that. I want to just give a shout out real quick to some of the people who are joining us. We've got Natalia, we've got Trey, we've got Mary. Thank you for joining. We've got Debbie, we've got Heath. Thanks everyone. Natalia asks a really good question. She says, how can people who are stressed and overwhelmed regain their sense of direction and control. So over their schedules, their time management, what do you have for them?
The first thing I would suggest, and this is common sense more than anything else, I would simply say, what do you believe is stressing you? Is it that you have too many things on your list? Is it that, because the people will say, I don't have enough time. Well, let me be the first to help you understand. You have all the time there is. We all have 10,080 minutes a week. Nobody's got any more, nobody's got any less. So it comes down to the choices that you make. And I think a lot of us want to get everything done when in fact that is impossible. So I would suggest to anyone who's stressed like that, what is it that's causing the stress? Is it too many choices? And you're trying to jam too many things into too little time? Are there outside forces? And the outside forces could be other people. It could be health-wise, could be all kinds of issues. What are some of the outside forces that may be pushing you and stressing you? If you can identify the source of the stress, then you can start thinking, what can I do about it? I had a young woman yesterday in a seminar that I did about management, and she is a young manager. She is managing some people who have been in their workplace for probably 25 to 28 years. So they're looking down at the tunnel and they're seeing light at the end of the tunnel, and they know that light is retirement. So they're not exactly knocking themselves out every day. And she's trying to figure out, how do I manage these people? And it's very stressful for her. Mm-hmm. And I explained, you've got to understand the reality of what these people are doing in the workplace and how they look at the workplace, and understand that for some of them, there's nothing you're going to do to make them work harder. So the best thing you can do is figure out, how can I bring other people's skills in? How can I minimize the damage these people, that I have some friends in the military who call them road scholars, ROAD, duty, and you have to handle those people. So if you can identify the stress, you can figure out a solution.
Yep, I love that. I love that. How, and maybe I'll double this back. And Ed asked, how much does good preparation have to do with generating the flow in the tasks we're facing? And what is good preparation? And so what I want to do is kind of pull away from some of the diagnoses of what's stressing us, and really give, like, what is tactical preparation? You sit down, you give me 3 items. What are those things that I should be doing to prepare?
There's a concept you and I talked about 2 weeks ago, and I just ran across this in the last 60 days, but it's the concept of micro progress is the phrase. And I'm seeing it increasingly as more kind of a hot phrase right now. What it means is baby steps. Yeah. And what you can do is figure out, what is that thing I have to do, that thing that gets me into flow. And by the way, as far as writing, I even professionally writing, I'm as bad a procrastinator as I was as a sophomore in college. So it's almost as if I know that I'm going to get this great feeling when I'm in the middle of it, but I'm still putting off trying. So what you can do is use just bits and pieces that get you a baby step closer to getting that thing started. I've had some writers say that they arrange things on their desk in a certain way. I have a friend who talks about, he puts off washing his car until he finally found out that if he would literally stand in his garage and throw the bucket and throw a sponge out beside the car, about an hour later, he'd be out there and be washing his car. At work, what small baby steps can you take to kind of start getting your project lined up so that you can step in and be all in on it? I don't know that's exactly what you were thinking, but I would suggest, here's the other thing about this micro progress deal that's pretty interesting. Some of the new research is showing that even if you put these little things on a to-do list, write them down on your to-do list, that simply checking them off tells your mind that you're making progress. And what happens is your mind pumps a little bit of dopamine into your system. You start getting this feeling, oh, okay, I'm more confident. I can go and get this done. Yeah. So getting some little, just lining some really little easy to do things that almost give you a running start on it.
Well, your comment just sparked so many ideas. I almost have to pick and choose, like, okay, which one of these should I go after? Because I think you're totally right. And just getting to that starting point, that's critical. It's imperative. A great book called The Willpower Instinct talks about the 10-minute rule, which is essentially if you're trying to start or stop a habit, then you give yourself a 10-minute rule. So let's say, for example, you want to write, but starting writing is difficult. Well, you say, well, I'm going to write for only 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Or if, let's say that you eat cake and you're like, I don't want to eat cake. Then when you have the urge to eat cake, you say, I'm not going to eat cake for 10 minutes. And the science shows that just that 10-minute window is enough to either keep you in the thing that you started, or keep you away from the thing that you started. And then when you talk about even the repetition, the dopamine, so we've talked about it on the show before, but there's a great book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. And he talks about our habits in terms of the habit loop, a cue, a routine, and a reward. And so the better we can create a good trigger, jump into the routine of maybe it's sitting down and writing, or writing down our to-do list, and then working on our to-do list. That would be the routine. And then the reward would be we cross it off and we get that hit of dopamine. But that leads to craving, which in a good form is actually can turn into, this is my personal belief, this isn't in the book, an addiction to accomplishment, which I think is really important, because our habits really do define us. And when we get in that habit of achieving, then we become hungry for it. And we do the things, the routine of, tackling things that we're scared of, tackling things that, might make us a little nervous, putting ourselves out there. We do those things more frequently because we need that hit of achievement, accomplishment. That totally can be taken to an extreme. But in the reality, that habit loop, we can use that to our advantage.
Oh, absolutely. I love that example, that metaphor of being a loop, because it is. It is that. I'll give you a great example of your 10-minute thing. I don't know how many of you folks know that yesterday was National Sticky Bun Day. And
wait, hold on. What's a sticky bun? Just for my own understanding.
Okay, they look like a big donut, and it's got sugar, sugar all over it. That's a sticky bun, like a honey bun.
Roll?
Yeah, kind of the same type of thing. Well, yesterday was National Sticky Bun Day, and I was determined that I was not going to celebrate National Sticky Bun Day. I mean, you can look at me and realize the last thing I need is a sticky bun. So what I would do when I would get that thought about, I would find something to divert my attention for a little while. And then I found that thought about it wouldn't hit me again until for a couple of hours. And I made it through the entire day without ever eating a sticky bun. So
there you go. And you didn't celebrate. Congratulations. I love that. I mean, I think it's so important. And, even in the Willpower Instinct, they talk about even just those little things. And you make this decision that I'm not going to engage. You give yourself a little window of time, and it's enough to deter you. So everyone who's just joining us, who's just jumping on, we're talking about productivity. We're talking about really some strategies to avoid doing the things you don't want to do, and hopefully just jumpstart you in doing the things that you know that you need to do. So what's next, Mike? So now we've kind of got ourselves protected. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me jump in on something. You mentioned willpower. One of the best books I've read about change is called How to Change Anything. Now, there are about 8 different authors, so I'm not going to go into that. But it's one of the best books I've ever seen on change. And they make a good point that so often when we rely on what we believe to be willpower, and we, in some way, I'm going to use the word fail, but let's just say that we don't step up and use that willpower. And let's say that I ate my sticky bun yesterday. But what they say is really we have about 6 helpers, not just willpower. We'll hammer ourselves about the fact, I just don't have the willpower. But in fact, we have about 5 more issues that we need to think about if we're trying to accomplish something. One of them is doing a skills scan, looking at yourself and asking yourself, do I have the skills to be able to do this?
Love that.
Or do I have the skills to be able to step away from it if I need to? The next thing is understanding who your friends are and who your accomplices are. Friends are those folks who will coach you up. They'll support you. Accomplices are those people who want things to stay the same. They're those folks who will help you eat a sticky bun. The next thing is having what's called a transformation conversation with some of those people who are influences in your life and saying, this is what I want to accomplish. One of the things that alcoholics have found very often is that they're going to have to go to family and friends and say, I love y'all, but there's some of you I'm not going to be able to be with on a regular basis because whenever I'm with you, we're drinking. And even seeing you, talking to you, there's the connection. The fifth one is creating boundaries so that you know when you go over one of those boundaries that I'm kind of slipping here. I got to dial it back in, and then making easy things. Making good things close and easy, and making bad things hard and distant. A lot of folks who try to stop smoking have found that they can't just toss the cigarettes out. There are going to be lighters around. There are going to be clothes that smell like smoke, all kinds of ashtrays and that stuff. And what you got to do is just get all of that stuff as much as you can out of your life, so that if you're craving a cigarette at midnight, you're going to have to go somewhere. You're going to drive somewhere to get one. So it's not just about willpower. You've got help other than willpower to get you where you want to go.
I love that. So give me that last one again. You make the good things close.
Good things easy and hard, easy and close, and bad things hard and distant. If you want to, classic example, if you want to be healthier, leave fruit around. Leave it out. I mean, have a bowl of fruit, not just in your kitchen. Have a smaller bowl of fruit, maybe in your living room on the coffee table or something like that, so that it's easy to grab that rather than go in and grab candy or something, drink a soft drink, that sort of thing. So easy, the good things close and easy, the bad things hard and distant.
I love that. And so when I work with clients, one of the things that I do around social media, apps, all of that is I say, listen, if you have a game or a social media platform that's pulling too much of your time, then delete the app. And then whenever you use it, one, you set a timer, and then two, you re-download it. And then you use it for that time and you delete it when you're done. And I had a client who she was playing games on her phone for sometimes 3 hours a day. And what was happening was she had a laundry list of things to do, but she was getting derailed because one game would turn into two games would turn into three, and then before you know it, it's lunch, and then afterwards she would take a nap, and then she would play another game. We deleted that app from her phone, just that app of one individual game, and it was like night and day. Not only was she now completing her to-do list, but she was actually completing more than her to-do list, because we had eliminated this huge time suck and this huge distraction. And so I just love the idea of, listen, look at the things that are distracting you, that are keeping you from the things that are really most important, and then make them harder. Make them harder to engage in and do, while making it, easier for you to do something. I'll share one last personal story. We had a couple years ago, we decided to take a break from television for the whole month of January. And we literally took the power cord out of the TV and put it in a cabinet in our kitchen.
That's great.
And we did that because we wanted to make sure that in those moments of weakness where the day's been a long day and we just felt like, you know what, I just want to sit down and watch TV. We didn't want to have it easy enough to just hit a button. We wanted to have to go through this process of finding which, drawer it was in, and then going and plugging it all in. And it was enough that we didn't turn on the TV for the entire month, and it kind of allowed us to reset.
Wow. That's way to go. Way to go.
So
your point about the go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say your point about the woman with the games is, when you were explaining that, immediately I thought about that concept of the loop. That there's that. What was it? The first of the loop, a cue or what?
It's a cue. So a trigger. There's a cue, routine,
trigger,
and a reward. Yep.
Right. So the reward very often is that sense of flow. I think that a lot of folks get into that sense of flow when they play games or do things like that. And next thing you know, hour, 2 hours is gone. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can't get it back. And you lay down at the end of the night and you're thinking, wow, I was busy all day. I was doing things all day, but I wasn't actually fulfilled. So I want to get your perspective on something, Mike, because when I work with clients, I kind of teach 3 things about time management. Number one, I want people to plan their time. So actually like thinking about the schedule, what do I need to accomplish? The second is that they have to protect that time. So ultimately, how am I keeping people from, from my time? And then the third is that they have to actually prepare for that time. So they plan it, they prepare, and they protect. What other ideas or, what am I missing from my strategy as I share that with clients?
Well, if you'll let me look at your 3, and kind of jump in just before those three are needed. And Natalia asked a question a little while ago about how do you start prioritizing things during your day? What I would say is there are about 7 areas of life, and mental, community, family, physical, emotional, spiritual. One of the things I would ask anyone to do is sit down and just say, okay, what are the areas that are really important to me? Now, this is where I think some people fall in a trap. And the trap is they'll write down what they think they're supposed to be interested in.
Yeah.
Not what they really are interested in. And obviously you've got to list some things where your responsibilities are. But one of the things I would suggest to anyone is sit down and ask yourself what things are really important to you in life. And then start realizing that, to your point, your 3 steps, if this is important for me, how much time can I allocate each week to that? And then start thinking about what can I do to be successful in those sorts of things, and then protecting that time. But I think you've got to start figuring out what's really important to you, where your responsibilities lie, and that sort of thing, and then start applying some of these strategies to making sure you get those things done and you can focus on those things. And you can't do, again, we believe in our society, I believe, that you can do it all, and you really can't. So I would ask people, if you can come up with your list of things that are really important, what are the top 3?
Yeah.
What are the top 3? Is it family? I have people all the time who, in some of the programs I do, I will ask them, what are the 3 things, if you tell me these 3 things about yourself, I'll really know who you are. And it's intriguing because most of the time the programs that I do, in which I do it, are work-based. And I bet you 80% of the people, when they do those 3 things, work is not in those 3 things at all.
What kinds of things do you hear from that? Because that's an interesting question. What kinds of answers do people give you?
A lot of times it's issues like family. You know, that I had a guy yesterday, and he said, I'm a father, I'm a husband, and he said, I'm an athlete. He said, I love to play golf, I love to run, love to be active, that sort of thing. There was a woman in the program, and she had that. One was involving her church, her spirituality. Another one was she was a mother, and she's a caregiver. And so none of that stuff, and I'll have people kind of get this little sheepish look of looking at each other like, do you have anything about work on your list? No, I didn't have anything on mine.
Don't tell the boss.
And what I try to help people, what I try to help people understand is that if you know what's really important to you, but you've got to work to make a paycheck, you need to find ways to connect what that work is with the fact that you can be the type of mom you want to be, and you can support the folks you need to support. So again, I'll go back to my point. You've got to start asking yourself, what is really important to you in life? Now, as you start, I'm kind of easing into that 4th quarter of life. So I'm asking myself, are some of the things that were important to me 20 years ago still important to me? Some of them are, some aren't, and some aren't. So,
I love that. Clayton Christensen talks about.
I think you're really on to something.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
Try again. You're kind of frozen on the screen for me.
Oh, am I?
Okay.
Everybody hear me. Go ahead.
Yeah, here we go. One of the things that I think is going to be really interesting over the next couple of decades is the fact that my folks, the baby boomers, are increasingly easing into the 4th quarter of life. I think it's something like 10,000 baby boomers turn 65 every day. And so as we look ahead, it's kind of getting interesting because, and I think that you're going to see a real jump in some areas like spirituality, in terms of family, some other issues that increasingly are going to be very important to people as they enter that 4th quarter of life. So, what are your priorities? What's important to you?
Yeah. So Clayton Christensen of Harvard, he talks about your strategy is what you spend your time and resources on. And so it's kind of like when we think about our time management, I love the question that you posed to your class, because a good follow-up question would be, well, how much time have you devoted to those 3 things in the last couple of days, the last week? And that can be a good stark reality of, wow, you know what? I say that family is important to me. I say that I'm an athlete and my health is important to me. I say that learning is important to me, but you know what? I've really only binge watched 3 seasons of my favorite show on Netflix. And, I participated in, what was it? Danish Day or whatever it was,
Sticky Bun.
Sticky Bun Day.
Sticky Bun Day.
So we have to just be really thoughtful and honest with ourselves of, hey, are these things that I say are important? Am I living it? Am I demonstrating that they really truly are important? Because that might help us course correct a little bit and hopefully get a little bit more serious about the things we're trying to tackle, trying to accomplish.
Well, Jared, you're wonderfully perceptive there with talking about maybe a next question, because when I do the exercise, I explain just what I did with you folks. Write down the 3 things. If you tell me these 3 things about yourself, I really know who you are. And then once they do that, though, I will say, all right, now I want you to write down the 3 things that take up most of your time. And I talk about waking hours. What are the 3 things that take up most of your time? And they'll make that list. And then I'll say, how many of you have the same 3 things on both lists? And I hardly ever have anyone in a group of any size. If I've got 100 people in a room, I'll have 3 hands go up. And then I'll say, how many of you have 2 things that repeat? And you see a few more hands go up. Have you 1 thing repeats? How many of you have 2 totally different lists? And that will be the majority of the hands going up. So you were wonderfully perceptive in picking up on that so many folks really don't think about the fact that the vast majority of my time, which is your life, is going for things that you're saying are not the most important things to you in life.
I love that. Objectively, should they match? From your experience, how should that look? Because, we have to work. We've got to spend a lot of time at work so we can pay our bills and provide for our families or build our careers. So how do you navigate that? How should that look?
In a perfect world, you would want both lists to be the same. But Jack Welch, who, as you know, was the CEO for General Electric for about 20 years, Jack Welch talks about the fact that our lives are always going to be out of balance. And what we have to do is, on a regular basis, find ways to kind of try and push our lives back into balance a little bit. So for most people, we are working. Work is something that brings in the type of funds that allow us to support the life we have, which is a whole nother discussion. When in my seminars, when we talk to people about this issue of money, and we'll talk about, well, what really happens? I mean, where did this "I need money" thing come from? And when we start out and we're all single, doesn't really cost a lot to keep us going. But then we fall in love. I'm loving your laugh. I'm loving your laugh. I told somebody the other day, you know that feeling that we get when we're in love? That's your common sense leaving your body. That's what that feeling is. Yeah. But we fall in love. We want a life, and all those things take money. Yeah. And in most cases in our society. But to go back to our point, it would be nice if they both match, both lists match. But you got to ask yourself, how is my life out of balance? How can I bring it back into balance? One way may be taking a walk for 15 minutes every day. I mean, it could be something that simple. Yeah. It could be making. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I chuckle because I remember one of my first jobs ever. They were paying me $28,000 a year, and I remember just thinking, and I literally said this. I said, I don't care if they ever pay me another dime. Like, I felt like I had made it. 28 grand a year was, and now I laugh. And my question all the time to, younger, entrepreneurs or, the younger generations that are like, I'm good. I'm like, great that you're good now.
Right.
If you're the same in 5 years, in 10 years, would you also be good? What is your plan for your family? Yeah. Is $28,000 enough to support them, to travel the way you want to travel? And so, again, in an effort to help them spark, okay, well, what do I need to do differently now so that I can achieve more of that later on? So I love that. I love that. Well, Mike, we are just about at time. Is there any final tips you want to share with our viewers? We appreciate you coming back on, and
sure.
Any final tips?
Thanks for the opportunity to come back. I would follow up with what we talked about 2 weeks ago, and that is, when you're looking at your time and where it's going, there are 3 things you need to look at. One, what are the rewards you're going to give yourself if you get those things done you want to get done? Second, how are you choosing the things that you want to get done? Are you looking at those things that are really important to your life? And here are the things I need to get done to be in life where I want to be and be the person I want to be. And then third, and this is so interesting to me, what is the terminology that you use relating to time? That goes back to how well, this is wonderfully, we started the program by talking about time management, that phrase, versus dream management, versus life management.
Yeah.
So those three things, what are the rewards you're going to give yourself? Second, how do you make choices about where your time goes? And third, how do you talk about time? How do you talk about life? Thank you for the opportunity. It's a delight to see you.
Mike, you are great. We certainly will have you on again. We appreciate your time now twice in a row, and we got good audio. We can see you. So I know that you're a part of our page. You're a part of our private group, Leadership Live Master Group. So definitely anybody who's watching can join those groups, can engage with Mike there, and continue to learn from him. So thanks so much, Mike, for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're going to let you
Thank
go, brother.
You guys.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Wow. That guy is 30 years. He's been talking and teaching about time management, how to manage time. So, really evaluate where you are. I love the whole idea of rewards, because really evaluating where you are in your life, what you want to accomplish, what you hope to achieve, it really does require you to be more productive, more active with your time, and more engaged with those things that are actually going to bring about the rewards that you're looking for. Whether that be, better health, or that be a bigger, bolder career, better relationships, it really lends to us being on top of, okay, what are the things that are going to get me there? I had a meeting earlier today with a new client, and we talked about how what holds people back is not their capabilities. What holds people back is their willingness to sacrifice. And so, sometimes we have to sacrifice our time. We have to sacrifice, TV or social media or a myriad of things, but we're capable of doing more. And so as you evaluate how you're spending your time, really ask yourself, okay, is this the best use of my time? Is this going to actually help me get to what I'm trying to achieve and what I'm trying to accomplish? So you guys are awesome. Thanks for staying with us through some technical difficulties again this week. Natalia will be back next week, so we won't have any issues technology-wise. But hope you have an amazing weekend. And if you haven't liked our group, like our group, join our group, contribute there. We want to help better leaders everywhere. So look forward to seeing you all there, and we'll talk to you next week. Have a great weekend. Bye.